Good afternoon. Good afternoon, kings and queens of the land. Good afternoon, the royals. Good afternoon to the liberated zones in Africa. Good afternoon to Burkina Faso, led by Captain Ibrahim Traore. Good afternoon to Mali, led by General Assimi Goita. Good afternoon to Niger, led by Colonel Abdurrahman Tian. These are the soldiers, these are the fighters in the Sahel states who have decided to take the motherland using the guns, the weapons that the colonizer understands very well, the weapon that the colonizer used at arrival in Africa to steal the land. The land was stolen at gunpoint by the colonizers in Africa, in the rest of Africa. In South Africa, one of the unique things about South Africa, the colonizer uh, took the land to stay, not only to for economic benefit, but for staying in the land. That is what is unique about South Africa. Good afternoon to KZN. KZN, led by President Jacob Gelesegisa Zuma, the liberated zone in the British colony. Good afternoon to KZN, the liberated zone in South Africa, liberated by the MK party. President Zuma is going to take over power, whether by ballot or by force, whether by guns or by peace. It's going to happen. President Zuma is going to take over power in South Africa to govern on behalf of black people. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mngoni Mkonto. This is the Royal Opinion. Today we are looking at the issue whether President Zuma, who actually betrayed, whether President Zuma did betray Muammar Gaddafi. That is the question. The question is, did President Zuma betray Muammar Gaddafi? What is the importance of this question? People are talking that President Zuma went to Gaddafi and stole the gold. President Zuma is very rich because he took the gold from Gaddafi and then eliminated Gaddafi with Europe. Those are the lies that are being peddled around by the propagandist people, the propaganda stations. Those are the things that they actually peddled underground. It's important to understand what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. The reason it's important is now, if we don't understand how did they do it, they actually killed Petrus Lumumba of Congo. Even today, we still have a problem in the Congo since the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, since the assassination of um, Muammar Gaddafi, since the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Libya has never recovered today. It happened in 2011. The people who said they wanted to liberate the people of Libya today are nowhere to be found. Muammar Gaddafi has been eliminated by people who pretended to love the people of Libya and eliminated Gaddafi. Today, Libya is a wreckage. Not even quarter of what it was. Libya was richer than the Netherlands. Libya was richer than most countries in Europe during Gaddafi, Libya had a surplus. When we talk about surplus, meaning on the foreign reserve, Libya had more than 150 billion uh, dollars, 150 billion dollar surplus, meaning Libya was the only country in the world who did not owe the IMF, the International Mafia Forum, a single cent. Libya was the only country which did not owe the International Mafia Forum before they eliminated Gaddafi. Let us talk about it's important to understand this so that history will not repeat itself. Because if we don't understand what happened to Gaddafi, it means history will continue to repeat itself. Our leaders are going to continue to be eliminated by the system, and we will not understand what happened to us. They came to the DRC and eliminated Patrice Lumumba and left the DRC as a wreckage, only as a place where they can actually exploit and steal minerals, valuable minerals. His body was burned by sulfuric acid so that there's no grave for him where people will go to remember Lumumba. When they bent his body, the Belgium took the tooth as a trophy for the king to the museum in Belgium. Patrice Lumumba was killed by the CIA. They confess that the CIA had the hand in the elimination of Patrice Lumumba. The CIA as well had a hand. The CIA is the American intelligence agency. King Victor Shong was saying JZ had no power to change the plot by Obama and the World Economic Forum to eliminate Gaddafi, who was the threat to their interests. King Victor Shongwe's comment about our topic. Thank you very much for joining and thank you very much for commenting. Uh, Today we're talking about this issue because there is a similar threat. The West have branded Muammar Gaddafi as a dictator, as somebody who did not want democracy and did not want his people to succeed. They went into Libya to eliminate Gaddafi, pretending to be people who love the people of Libya. Let us look at what Gaddafi did in order to annoy the Americans. Muammar Gaddafi took over in 1969, found Libya as a desert which was colonized by the West. Libya nationalized all the assets. Muammar Gaddafi nationalized all the European assets or the assets of Libya, which were exploited by the Europeans. He nationalized the resources. He nationalized the oil, which is basically the purest and uh, the largest body of oil which has been discovered in Africa since. I was actually shocked. I'm actually even shocked even now. I did not understand. I was so shocked to discover that the shortest distance between Africa and Europe, the shortest distance between Africa and Europe, there's an ocean, the Mediterranean Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, where the Mediterranean is meeting the Atlantic Ocean. That is the shortest distance to Europe. The distance is 13 kilometers. You can actually see Europe when you are in Africa. It's not a far distance. The ocean that separates Africa from Europe is the Atlantic and the Mediterranean Ocean. In the far part of which is closer to Europe. Only 13 kilometers to cross to Europe, but there's no bridge to get to Africa. If white people were for black people or white people were good for black people, they were just gonna make a bridge to allow movement of people between Europe and Africa easy like that. Easy movement of people from Europe to, because many people are dying in the Mediterranean trying to get to Europe in a strip of 13 kilometers, which engineers can actually, we've got enough resources in the world to can actually construct a bridge. The places between Morocco and Spain, the shortest distance to Europe is 13 kilometers from Morocco to Spain through the ocean. I was so shocked to find out that distance. I thought maybe Europe is very far from Africa. So when they pump oil from Africa, it's not like they take it from a longer distance. So Libya, 90% of the land in Libya is a desert. Rain is only available in the closer to the shores, closer to the Atlantic Ocean. Only when you go up, uh, it's a dry land. It's 90% of the area. Sometimes 10 years without rain, or more than 20 years without rain. But President Gaddafi made a research uh, and made a discovery, because they had a challenge. It was difficult to develop Libya without water. Uh, One of the biggest projects in the world that they was ever constructed by human beings, the great man-made river by Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi discovered oil in the up north of, or inside the desert. They discovered water which was more important than the oil, because you can't drink the oil. Water is more important than the oil. They discovered water which was around 2,000 kilometers away from where people are staying. Gaddafi took the biggest project ever taken by mankind to construct pipes from the desert to take water from the underground water to develop Libya and to make Libya a habitable place. Gaddafi rose the population of Libya from approximately 2 million people to over 8 million people during his reign. He took the pipe 8 meter in diameter, transporting water, creating uh, an irrigation settlements along the pipeline, because it was either it depend on Europe, or obviously it was gonna be exchange water for Europe was gonna offer water, fresh water resources for oil. But Muammar Gaddafi discovered that Libya also had water along the pipe. He created agricultural settlements where anybody who wanted to be a farmer was sponsored by government, was given the seeds and the land by the government, was provided the water, the irrigation systems by the government. Everything that you needed, you only needed to make profit from the land. That's all. If you wanted to be a farmer, any person or any student in Libya was given a stipend. Any student in Libya, when they are still studying, education was free from ground level to university. Education was free in Libya. Those who are in universities, they were paid a stipend. If you study outside Libya, the students were even paid more, $3,000 per month if you study outside Libya, which would be an equivalent of around 60,000 rands in South Africa. If a young woman give birth in Libya, the government used to give them $5,000 to start their life. Any man who wanted to start a family, the government gave them housing for free with satellite television. With satellite television, given a house, your wife given money with satellite television. Aircon was provided by government because Libya is a very hot place. Air conditioning was provided by government in people's houses. Everybody in Libya used to receive dividend from the profit of oil that Libya used to make. Muammar Gaddafi has achieved a lot for the people of Libya. Gaddafi created the dinar as the currency of Libya, which was backed by gold. The currency was the strongest currency in the planet. Before they eliminated Gaddafi, Libya had the strongest currency, which was stronger than the dollar, because they did not owe anybody any money. They actually had investments in different countries. Most of the money which Libya invested in different countries was stolen by the Europeans when they invaded Libya to eliminate Muammar Gaddafi. Why did the West eliminated Gaddafi? They eliminated Gaddafi because he represented his people. They eliminated him because he wanted to change the African Union to represent the people of Africa. He wanted African Union to have a common currency. He wanted the unity of Africa and a common currency which would be backed by gold, which would make Africa to have the strongest currency. There has been protest across Africa against Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron, who wants now to eliminate Ibrahim Traore, who are now talking Devilic language against Ibrahim Traore. They want to eliminate him. They want to take him out, just like they did with Gaddafi. Macron says whatever Africans can do to protest or whatever they want to do, they can go and do. Uh, France will not leave Africa because Africa is not ready to govern itself. That's what Macron says. He says France will not leave Africa because Africa is not ready to govern itself. So they will come and eliminate whatever we say. It does not matter. Even when we protest, it does not matter. Obviously, this will not matter because otherwise, if they allow us to be free, then they will become poor countries because they are rich because of us. The European countries are rich because of Africa. The wars happening in the world are for controlling of Africa. If you lose control in Africa, then you become a very poor country. President Ibrahim Traore has stopped the exporting of natural resources to European countries. That means a lot of factories which were receiving these resources, including tomatoes, there were factories in France which were manufacturing tomato paste or tomato juice or tomato what, all of those products that comes from tomatoes. All of those factories are suffering because now there's no raw material which they were getting from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. So a lot of factories are closing in Europe, and as long as they allow us to be free, then the European is going to be in suffering. Their countries are going to collapse. Most of the people will have to come and be beggars in Africa. If we take the land and make the resources belong to the people, then Europe will become the poorest place in the planet. So Muammar Gaddafi in Libya did not allow, there was nobody poor in Libya. There was no poverty. There was no street. There was no homelessness in Libya. No street kid in Libya during Muammar Gaddafi. The way he was governing the country, it was like the street committees were the ones who had power to decide on budgets, on whatsoever, on the infrastructure that they want for themselves. It was the government of the people by the people. It was not like people sitting somewhere in a far distance deciding that these people, let's make them pay VAT. It was not like that. It was them deciding, the people deciding how they want to govern themselves. He promoted the women leadership. He actually used in his protection, in his security, he used women security or women soldiers as part of his protection. So Muammar Gaddafi fought for liberation of women, and he wanted Africa to have a common currency which would actually destroy or eliminate the dollar. So they decided to eliminate Muammar Gaddafi. Did Africa or did President Zuma betrayed Muammar Gaddafi? President Zuma and Africa had no power to stop Europe from killing Muammar Gaddafi. The only thing that would stop them from invading a country is when the country stands on their feet and are determined to also defend themselves in a military way. Because if that's not done, then they will not go back. They will not. It's also as it's either they perish or they lead Africa. If our attitude is, that's why Ibrahim Traore says it's either we perish or we get liberated from slavery. Two things will happen. Victory is certain. It's either we perish in this or we get liberated. No fear for death. If people don't have fear for death, then they will be able to defeat the colonizer because he's using the same attitude. It's either I perish in this or I control Africa. There's no surrender, no retrieve, no surrender. The Americans are surrounding now the AES countries. They're surrounding them. They want to invade. They still want to invade. Ibrahim Traore, they've tried to kill him 19 times now. They've attempted to eliminate him more than 19 times now. 7 times they tried to remove his government. So this is the attitude of people who will not surrender unless you have the energy or is prepared to fight back. If you're not prepared to fight back, or if you're not prepared to be as aggressive as they are, then we should know that we're going to be slaves forever. Black people are going to be slaves forever. We owe it to the future. We owe it to those who will inhabit Africa in the future to ensure that we hand over Africa, which is free, to the future. Some of the things that There's quite a lot of things that Muammar Gaddafi has achieved. We cannot even finish in one video. There's quite a lot of things that Muammar Gaddafi has done in Libya that caused the Europeans to attack Muammar Gaddafi. He was bombed in 1986, and no African president stood against that. They knew it was the CIA attacking Muammar Gaddafi, but nobody stood against that. Today, NATO and the CIA are attacking Ibrahim Traore and our current leaders. The current leaders, the sellout leaders, who Europe should be aware, Americans should be aware that they don't have the contract with the African people. They only have contract with the corrupt African leaders, not with the African people. The corrupt African leaders whose stomachs are full. Those are the people that they have contract with. The African people on the ground, they are not contracted to that nonsense. It will not happen. It will not happen again that you come and control Africa. This is a new generation. You should be aware that this is a new generation and it's never going to happen. Time has gone and time is changed. Black people are now sharing all the things that the Europeans are doing in Africa. All the pillages, the stealing, the sabotage, the killings that the Europeans are conducting in Africa. The destruction of no scale, at no scale, at no human scale. The planet has never seen such a destruction caused by human beings. 70% of the land in South Africa belongs, which is agricultural land, meaning 100% of the agricultural land in South Africa belongs to the white people. How can that be life? Black people in South Africa are congested in smaller areas. All the land belongs to the white people. How can that be sustainable? Let me share. I want to share this video so that we can answer the question whether President Zuma betrayed.
Speak 3 African languages there. And I have some properties left in Victoria Falls, actually, in Zimbabwe.
Beautiful place.
Yes. I have 2 questions. First question is, I loved Gaddafi. I know it's very controversial to say that. There was no employment. The country was having a positive balance, as an economy. And when outside forces came in, African Union did not do anything. That was sad. An African leader was taken on the streets and killed. What are you going to do as African Union to get some teeth in the defense processes of the continent? That's the first question.
I'm glad you asked that question. And if the truth be told, the African Union was not pleased with the manner in which the UN Security Council voted to take out Saddam in the manner that they did. The African Union had a plan. Zuma, President Zuma of South Africa, had already accepted him for asylum. Plans were underway to talk to Gaddafi for him to move to South Africa. So yes, the decision to take out Gaddafi went against the wishes of the African Union. We wished things had been handled a little differently. You're quite right. I think, but when you're coming up against more powerful forces, again, it goes back to Africa taking its rightful place on the world stage. But AU was clearly opposed to the manner in which Gaddafi was taken out without a plan for replacement, which is what led us to the Libya that we have today.
My second question, black racism on white. I've seen farms being taken over by Mugabe forces, the ZANU-PF people. What is the African Union doing to, when we talk about racism from Africa and we bash colonists and we actually are doing that to their citizens right there, what are you going to do to recompensate and rehabilitate those citizens who have been there for 4 generations, 5 generations? What is African Union going to do for that?
Okay, I like the fact that you're putting a timeline there. See, with history, we have a tendency to say, well, let's start the story from here moving forward. But let's not talk about the story going back. In Zimbabwe, you have to say, how did we get there? Let me take 1 minute and summarize it for you. When the British came to Zimbabwe, they analyzed the country and divided it into 4 regions. Region 1 was the best soil, the best rains, best conditions for farming. Region 2, pretty close to Region 1. Region 3, there were some areas there, the soil was not so good, and the rain was good, but not the best. Region 4, no rain. The soil was horrible, mosquitoes and sesaflies. So they set out a plan. If you were an adventurous British, a veteran of the First or Second World War, you were guaranteed 2,000 hectares. Hectares, multiply 2,000 by 2.2. You were guaranteed that much in Zimbabwe, plus any loot from the local people. So a British man would land in Zimbabwe. So based on the regions that they had decided, they were going to move all the black people, preferably from the region 1 and 2 to region 4. So the process started. And how did a British map up their land? You got on a horse, they'll tell you this region. Get on a horse, and you ride in one direction for a day until either you or your horse were tired. You put your bag. Tomorrow morning, you do the same thing. So it took 4 days for the Englishman to map up his land. At the end of the 4 days, everything in it is yours. And the people who lived on that land were told, in this direction, go past this mountain. In this direction, go past this river. They left with whatever they could carry. The chickens, the goats, the cows, they were theirs. And some of them were not so lucky. You barely settled again when another Englishman came, and he was given that part. And there you were again. Slowly, the process of moving black people to the west parts of the country started, and it was finally completed in the 50s. Now, you want to ask me who needs to be compensated? Are you with me?
Yes.
So we got to go to the beginning rather than understanding things superficially. How did you get your hand? It just goes about how fast you could go. Some of these farmers were owning 5, 6, 7 farms. I know my family farm, and I grew up hearing the story from my own father. When the situation took place in the case of my father, he remembers distinctly he was a teenager. And he used to, when white men came to Africa with their pants, they called them men without knees. He remembers men without knees coming to the village on horses. There was some hush-hush talk. He didn't know what was going on. But he remembers waking up one morning and the whole village was on fire. They were being torched by these men without knees on horses. His aunt was pregnant and was due any day. So they had asked for permission for her to stay until she delivers. It was one little hut that was left standing in a burnt out village. They left with whatever they could carry. Sadly for them, Aunt didn't deliver for 3 weeks. My father spoke about how scared he was every morning. The men without knees coming to check and see if my aunt had delivered. There was him, an uncle, another grandmother who was a midwife, and another aunt. They all crumbled up in this one room. When she finally delivered, 3 days after delivery, they were told to walk, go find the others who had left before. Now the loot law, it's in the history books. You don't have to go far. It's in the British history books. As a matter of fact, the British started fighting themselves over how to distribute the loot as they go from one place, one village to the other. It was acceptable. So, son, do you still want to ask me who is owed what?
President Zuma made an arrangement. President Zuma was the last African leader to go and see President Muammar Gaddafi. He had an arrangement with President Gaddafi to come to South Africa to run away from the Europeans who were almost capturing him. Gaddafi was found hidden in a drainage pipe. After President Zuma arranged his exit from Libya, President Zuma arranged his intelligence when he wanted to get into Libya to rescue Muammar Gaddafi. Um, the Europeans captured Muammar Gaddafi and eliminated him because that's what they wanted to do. America wanted to parade Hillary Clinton wanted to parade Muammar Gaddafi. They actually killed him in cold blood and they actually paraded his body in the streets. Paraded his body in the streets. African leaders did not say a thing. African children did not defend Muammar Gaddafi. The Libyans whom Gaddafi was working for were powerless to defend Gaddafi against NATO, against America. They had forced most of the African countries to sign a no-fly zone, which authorized them to send their men on the ground with boots to go and eliminate Muammar Gaddafi, because Gaddafi had a strong air power and he was gonna fight back. So President Zuma has never betrayed Muammar Gaddafi. President Zuma wanted to rescue Muammar Gaddafi from Libya, and Obama and his intelligence snatched him while President Zuma was still planning to uh, rescue Muammar Gaddafi from the from the murderers. These are hyenas. These are vultures. We're talking about hyenas. We're talking about vultures here. We're talking about people who've got no morals, who've got no hearts, no emotion. Money for them is everything. A lot of black people have been changed to think like that money is everything. Gaddafi got eliminated without a sin. And black people watched. Nobody commented about it. Nobody put up a fight about it. Are we going to stand again? Are we going to watch them destroy another African leader once again? In South Africa, many people were guilty again in South Africa of letting the CIA to put to suffering. One of our own, President Zuma, has been put to suffering, has been haunted by the CIA at the watch of black people, under the watch of black people. I was still going to continue in the same attitude and allow the CIA and NATO to destroy our leaders. They eliminated Robert Sobukwe, but they kept Mandela. We should ask ourselves, which kind of leaders do they keep? Which ones? What is the requirement for them to keep you? Click the like button and subscribe. Motherland or death. Victory is Satan. Thank you very much.